Start. Mr. Deputy Chairman, sir, I will keep my comments short as I recognize it is late in the evening. The Honorable Finance Minister has already spoken at length, so I will keep this very short. First of all, very quickly, I want to thank everybody who has worked for many years in putting this legislation together. I want to thank the members in the Lok Sabha. They have passed it. But in particular, I really do want to thank the joint committee that worked on it. There were 30 members, 10 from this August House, who have improved upon this in very significant ways, including the fact that they have strengthened workmen's right, they have introduced cross border insolvency recourse so that we can go in for cross border insolvencies as well, and they have introduced and strengthened the role of the operational creditors as well. So we owe a lot to the Joint Select Committee, and I really want to recognize them for the work that they have done. Many members spoke today, and I want to thank them for their contributions as well. What I would try and do is to, in a very short pointed way, answer the specific questions that were brought up. I think all honorable members here will agree that we operate in a market economy, and because we operate in a market economy in this country and around the world, and because progressively over the last 25 years we have moved more and more towards an open market economy where we have brought down entry barriers. As Professor Gowda correctly said, we also have to make it possible for exit resolution and revival to happen in a smooth, effective, and efficient manner, protecting the various stakeholders. That is what could not be made possible in the Indian economy previously, and that is what this quite historic legislation will enable us to do. We have many debates in this house and in the other house as well, but I just want to pause for a second to remind ourselves that this is a historic legislation. We are changing the Indian economy because we are enabling it, in fact, to be able to let the processes of creative destruction, which Professor Gowda was speaking about, operate much more efficiently. We will do that while protecting the people who matter, and the people who matter the most are obviously the workmen. We have to make sure that those stakeholders, because they are the most vulnerable, are protected first. He brought up several instances where people have not got their dues paid. In some cases, it was 43 months and so on. Sir, the way this law is set up precisely avoids those problems because it enables workmen to initiate the insolvency process. So, for example, if it has been 3 months or 6 months that you have not been paid, you can initiate the insolvency process and you will be first in line for up to 24 months. So the cases that you are worried about, those are precisely the kinds of cases that we will avoid through this legislation, the way that it is written, and so I think the honorable member's fears would be set at rest when he understands exactly how this law would work. In most instances, if they are already being tried by a superior court, for example, the High Courts or the Supreme Court, we cannot initiate this process for them. But if they are in some of the other courts, then it is possible on a voluntary basis to bring them to the NCLT and see whether we can have a more efficient resolution process. But we wanted to protect the most vulnerable. I really want to thank the Joint Committee for ensuring that it was 24 months worth of workman dues that we protect in this manner. Of course, we as a government are trying our level best as well to create a robust safety net so that it is not necessary that our workers are reliant only on a company or a job, because Professor Gowda points out in a market economy companies come and companies go. So if in India we rely only on company for a safety net, we are making many of our workers very insecure and vulnerable. We want to avoid that through some of the other initiatives that we are taking in the government. Well, when a company is put into bankruptcy, there is also an ability to primitively talk about bankruptcy. So the revival process can actually start even before you can go into bankruptcy. Obviously, you know what the shadow of bankruptcy will do. So, the idea would be the stakeholders understanding that bankruptcy is possible and it is a costly, time consuming affair. We will primitively sit down and negotiate and come to a better settlement. This is indeed possible. But if you do go into bankruptcy or if you do it preemptively, there are three possibilities that are worth considering when you go into revival process. One is you find it is the promoter that is not capable of managing that company any longer. So you replace the promoter because the secured creditors, workmen, and so on have primitive rights over the promoter. So you just replace them and the company is viable, it operates and it becomes competitive and moves on. The second case is if the company actually requires a complete resetting of its costs and its capital structure to become competitive, there is a restructuring process that is required and that will be done through the insolvency process. So, sir, in conclusion, I would say that this is a very good initiative taken by the government, which we all welcome. But if the government will deliberate a little on the observations made by it, this bill can be improved a great deal, and I hope that the government will pay heed to all these arguments.